Good morning, YouTube. Thanks for tuning in to Total Payout Podcast. You're now with your host, Trouble, aka Merc the Book. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start this episode once again with yesterday's results. Okay, so we had two picks yesterday. We had the North Carolina Tar Heels plus 3.5, and then we had Detroit Pistons money line. So we're gonna go ahead and eat the crow first. Obviously, all the time, like I say, we cash a check and we eat the crow. No matter what, we're gonna be greedy. So we're gonna start with Detroit money line. So just kind of a quick little recap on that game. Detroit did get whooped. It was kind of close throughout, until like maybe in the third quarter, start of the fourth quarter. Detroit fell apart. Just in a nutshell. Pick 'em. It was a pick 'em game, so it was pretty much pick with either side you like had to just win the game. Obviously, the Spurs won. I think Detroit probably learned a lot from yesterday's game. Playing just pushing people around don't work. Play basketball. That's all I can say about watching that game. Just think you pushing people on the ground don't pretty much do much if you ain't putting the ball in the hole. So without putting the ball in the hole, this is football, not basketball. So that's all I got to say about that. Obviously, we're gonna eat the crow on that one. That was the only L we took yesterday. We went 1-1. That was the only L. And then the other game was, like I said, was North Carolina plus 3.5. Like I explained, that game for me was pretty much like a kind of like a replay of the game before on Saturday with Duke and Michigan. Not to say Duke is better than Michigan. Obviously, Michigan better than Duke right now, as far as where they were ranked at. But going into certain teams' homes, it's nostalgia that plays out, and it's tough for me to look at those teams and take them as a dog at. I mean, as a not take them as a dog at home. So that North Carolina bet was pretty much just me, just experience looking at the situation, looking at the line, looking at the scenario, and just knowing that sometimes you just gotta look in the mirror and pull that trigger. And I was just pretty much those two games, that game yesterday. Like I said, it was a pretty decent day, 1-1. We pushed pretty much. We ain't come out ahead, but better than going on two. So looking at today's slate, a lot of games today, a lot of games today. Just kind of looking at college, just a lot of big matchups, a lot of uneven spreads. I couldn't find none that I really loved in the college rank. So I'm gonna pass on college. I like some games, I didn't love some. So I'm all about what I love. The games that I did like were all in the NBA. So we do have another two-teamer today for the NBA. Just spreads on the spread side. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavs, and then we're going to take a look at the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Portland Trailblazers game a little later. That's later on in the evening. So just to start off, we're going to start with the Knicks game first. Obviously, going time slot, so we're going to start with the first game on the docket. Looking at the Knicks and the Cleveland Cavs. Okay, so we got the Knicks coming in at 38-21, and we got the Cavs coming in at 36-22. Against the spread, Knicks are 30-28 and one push. Cleveland 24-34, so they're not very good against the spread. But they did a lot of they lackadaisical BS playing early in the season. They're coming around, so that spread hopefully will look a lot better towards the end of the season. But right now it's 10 games under. As far as in the East, the Knicks do have a better standing. They're 25-14 in the East. The Cavs are 22-13. So in the win column, Cavs 3 games better. In the loss column, 1 game worse. So obviously Cleveland has a couple games they got to play to make up. Now, home and away, the Knicks aren't that great against the spread. They actually are bad against the spread. 9-17 and one push. So it's kind of tough taking them against the spread. On the road, you kind of gotta catch them at a great time. The Cavs are 11-19, so they're pretty much both 8 games under against the spread. So there's not a big um, separation against the spread with these two teams in home and away. So I will factor that into my decision when I kind of let you guys know what I like. As far as recently, the last 5, Cavs 4-1, Knicks 3-2. Knicks, like I said, aren't doing very well. 1-4 against the spread. Cavs 3-2 against the spread. One of those coming against the Thunder the other night. The streaks right now, we got the Knicks on a 2-game winning streak, but they are on a 3-game losing streak as far as the spread goes, and then they have went under 2 straight. The Cavs, I've lost one. Straight up, obviously, like we said, we took the Thunder on Saturday on was a Sunday, so that one loss, and then they have two losses against the spread in a row, and then two over. So Cavs have, looking to get that streak started again that they lost against the Thunder. Now, looking at these two teams head to head, recently, as far as like the last 10 games they played against each other, let's go ahead and pull that up. I know, it's kind of tough because these two teams, to me, by the end of the season, should be at the top of the respective East position. I just don't see the other teams, maybe Boston, trying to catch these two teams, but I see these two teams being a step ahead of the other teams that's probably ahead of them right now. Maybe not Detroit, but anybody, I know the Knicks might be number two, and then you got we call it number three, so something like that, but. Looking at the Knicks beat them Cleveland on Christmas by two, 126, 124, with Cleveland being a 5 point dog. So have to factor that in. And then in October 22nd, the Knicks also won 119, 111. So both their games this year, the Knicks have won. The last 10, they're 5-5, so you don't get no even than that. The Cavs are 6-4 against the spread last 10, and then they're under 3-7. So let me see. Just looking at as far as home and as far as money line home and away, I do have the Cavs overall at home. They're coming in at 19-11 at home, while the Knicks are coming in at 15-13 straight up on the road. And then against the spread, we got the like I said, we got the Knicks 11-17, then 11-19 for the Cavs. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and tip my pick right now. I'm gonna go ahead and roll with the Knicks plus the 4 points. Um, One reason being, I got maybe two, three reasons why. First reason being, Cavs coming off that nice win streak they had going on. I kind of, wait a couple games to jump back on the team after they lose a big streak, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14 games, whether it's basketball or baseball. When I see a team go on a streak like that and they lose a game, from experience, they usually take a couple games to get back into that mode. It takes a lot to keep a lot of energy, a lot of mental focus, a lot of everything to keep going from home and away, winning games when you're getting teams best, especially when you're coming in at the tail end of that streak. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll with the Knicks plus the four. The Knicks were slumping a little bit, a couple games back. I say about they were going money line losses, money line loss, money line loss. So it's like, they won two straight. Like I say, Cleveland coming off that big streak. They had one loss in between to the Phoenix Suns, which was, inexplicable. But they did have like a 7-8 game win streak going into OKC. That's a lot of games to be winning in basketball. Getting teams best every night. The Knicks are on a 2 game win streak. The last time they did have a win streak was a 3 game win streak. That was back February 1st, between the first and the fourth. So let's see. I'm not calling the money line out, but I am calling the plus a 4.5 out. Which what I'm seeing. If we can get a 5, that's great. But I do love them plus 4, plus 4, plus 4.5. I think tonight is going to be one of those games where they kind of come out, catch Cleveland in the first game back from that road trip. First game back, they've probably been back a couple nights. Obviously, they play Sunday. It's what, Tuesday, so it's a couple nights. But I just think the Knicks are gonna go in there with just come out and punch them in the mouth, just kind of like how OKC did them the other day. And by the time Cleveland wakes up once again, the Knicks are not going to want to lose that game. Not saying they won't lose that game, because being at home, Cleveland might have the extra juice that they need to get over the hump, that they didn't have the other night against OKC, the other morning, shall I say. This is an evening game, so obviously you don't have to worry about that early morning time factor. It's a home evening game. But like I say, the Knicks coming in fresh, ready to go. It's a good matchup wise, a good matchup as far as bodies, as far as position by position. I say, give or take, maybe you might give Cleveland the edge on the bench. Starting lineup, it's a wash for me. Give or take, maybe James Harden might be the difference if he shows up. But it all depends on what James Harden you get. Donovan Mitchell, he's carrying the load. So the other night he fizzed out. So you might get his best tonight. The Knicks are gonna make him work. You know that. So They got Schroeder off the bench. They got Ellis off the bench. They got a nice bench. They got a bunch of guards off the bench. I mean, they're not too big off the bench, but I just think that it's gonna be one of those Eastern Conference slugfests where the Knicks kind of have their number for the majority of the game, and the Cleveland might pull it out late. But I just think those 4 points in my back pocket are gonna be something that I'm gonna need looking at this game. I wouldn't argue with you if you took Cleveland money line. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Like I said, I do think they might be able to come back in the end and pull it out, just because of the nature of basketball, home team. They are great. They are a good team. So I'm not underestimating their resolve on coming out and even jumping on the Knicks. But just looking at the way I see the game going, I see Cleveland coming out lackadaisical. Coming off that win streak, getting busted by OKC. I know they probably feel like they shouldn't have lost that game, considering that they didn't have to face OKC's best. So let's hope we get a Cleveland team that comes out a little frustrated, and the Knicks come out focused, and they just get on them right away, and we can ride that at least to a cover, if not a straight up win. So we're gonna ride that one for the first bet. Now the second bet a little tricky. I know I faded Portland the other night against Phoenix. That was my mistake. Not going back to them because of the outcome of that game. I didn't expect the outcome of that game. I am tipping my pick once again. I'm going to take Portland plus a 7. This is more once again of a fade. It's more of a fade and it's more of a take on Portland. Um, but it's more of a fade on Minnesota more than a take on Portland. I'll say that. Now, the reason why I look at this game, partly because I did like how Portland came out after getting smacked by Denver by 54 points. They came back and held Phoenix to 77 points. Like that is so it shows me that for one, the coach challenged them or their veterans challenged them. One or the other, somebody challenged them to be great the next game because you don't give up, you don't lose by 54, come back and give up 77 points after you gave up 157. So that is for one. I'm gonna look at that and say, okay, they came back and they understood the assignment. Now Minnesota did the total opposite against Philly. They came out against a team that I feel Philly's better than they came at the beginning of the year, but Minnesota shouldn't have lost to Philly like that at home. Now, do we get the best Minnesota in the same scenario as Portland the night before, losing to Denver, and then go because it's the same scenario. You at home, you get smacked by a team. Not in the case of giving up 150, but you lose to a team. Everybody, the spread was nice for the Timberwolves, and they lost on the money line. So, do they come back on the next day, the next game on the road? Not they don't have to deal with the home pressure and take the air out of Portland, or do Portland take what they achieved on the bounce back against the team that a team that they should have beaten the night before, at least not gave up 157 to Denver, and then come back and then only give up 77 to Phoenix, albeit a team that's not 100%, but they still you play who's in front of you. So they played that team without their best players exactly how it was supposed to be played. Without their best players, who's gonna do what, and that's what happened. So Minnesota, they're I like Minnesota. Obviously, Ant Man. You got Julius. You got Daniels. I think uh Nas is out tonight. Reed is out tonight. I know he's questionable. So shoulder injury, tough when it comes to shooters and big men with shoulder injury. So got to bang in the lane with big man all day. So I just it's tough for me. Obviously, we want to hope Avija comes back. I know Sharp's out, guaranteed. Obviously, Dame's been out, so if Avija comes back, then we know that's a added plus for the Blazers. But I still like what the Blazers got matchup wise. Obviously, Ant's gonna do his thing, but outside of that, I think Portland matches up great against Minnesota. You got the young boy Klingling against Rudy, so they're gonna bang bodies in there. Hopefully, Klingling can get a lot of just clean up a lot of the misses and don't let Rudy get a lot of the misses and kick it back out to Ant and them, so they can just come in the lane, dive in the lane, things like that. If they could control that, then I think Portland's good with the 7 points. Um, my line has that game as Minnesota as -3, so it's a 4 point cushion. The Knicks and the Cavs was a pick. So, we're right there as far as we got a 3, 4 point cushion. hopefully that 3 point cushion gives us, lets us cash that check today. So like I said, we only got 2 games today. We're not gonna go crazy and try to, try to really, murk the book. We just trying to cash a check today. Just trying to get back up and just trying to see through the forest. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of trees in the forest. We trying to get through it. So don't put a lot of food on our plate, just enough to get full. So like I said, we got the Knicks +4 against the Cavaliers, and then we got Portland at home getting 7 points against the Timberwolves today. Other than that, I want to thank you guys. Please give me a chance, man. Go ahead and like and subscribe at the end of this video. If you like, comment. If you have anything against what I said, go ahead and give me some comment. We can argue in the comment section. I love talking every day to people about sports. I'm in the sports book in Vegas every day, chatting, doing the same thing right here. So feel free to go ahead and drop me a comment. We can argue all night to the next day. And if you're right, you're right. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So once again, you're with Trouble, aka Merc the Book. It's a Total Payout Podcast. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. This is February 24th. Y'all have a great one.